Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 in the morning, your mind racing? You stare at the ceiling, maybe glance at the clock, and a wave of anxiety washes over you. You worry about your health, your family, your future. You might even have a nagging thought, a little voice that whispers, "Is this bad for me? Is this lack of sleep doing some kind of permanent damage?" If you've ever felt that specific brand of middle-of-the-night worry, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. And that fear, especially as we get older, often centers on one of the most sudden and life-altering medical events a person can face: a stroke. We've all heard the advice: eat right, get some exercise. But what about sleep? It often feels like the forgotten pillar of health. Well, today we're going to change that. We're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most significant, yet often misunderstood, risk factors for stroke. A massive international study called the Interstroke Study and published in the highly respected journal Neurology delivered a finding that should make every single one of us sit up and pay attention. They discovered that people who consistently sleep less than 5 hours a night have a 3 times greater risk of suffering a stroke. Let me say that again. Less than 5 hours of sleep, a threefold increase in risk. But here's the secret, the part that most news reports glanced over. The very same study found another group with an identical threefold increase in risk, and it had almost nothing to do with the number of hours they slept. That's the mystery we're going to solve today. We're going to give you the full story, the kind of in-depth conversation your doctor might not have time for in a 15-minute appointment. We're going to give you clarity, and more importantly, a sense of control. Over the next few minutes, we are going on a deep dive into the real science of sleep and stroke. We're not just going to skim the surface. First, we'll look at that powerful link between short sleep and stroke risk. Then, we'll tackle that confusing question of long sleep. Is sleeping too much just as bad? The answer will likely surprise you. After that, we're going to do some real detective work, moving beyond simple headlines to understand if sleep is the true villain, or if it's a giant, flashing red light pointing to something else. We'll uncover the real culprit that often hides in plain sight, or rather, in plain sound, while we're sleeping. Finally, and most importantly, we will walk through practical, evidence-based steps you can take, starting tonight, to protect your brain and reclaim your peace of mind. My promise to you is that by the end of this video, you will feel less anxious and far more empowered, armed with knowledge from world-class institutions like the Mayo Clinic and the American Heart Association. You will understand that you are not helpless in the face of this risk. And just a quick but very important reminder: I am not a doctor, and this video is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice. The goal here is to empower you with information so you can have more informed conversations with your own trusted healthcare provider. Please, always consult your doctor for any personal health concerns. So let's begin with that headline-grabbing statistic that brought you here today. The idea that sleeping too little can dramatically increase your risk for a stroke isn't just a vague warning anymore. It's backed by robust global research. The Interstroke study was a monumental undertaking. It looked at thousands of people across 32 countries, comparing those who had suffered a stroke with those who had not. They analyzed a host of lifestyle factors, and what they found in the sleep department was striking. Those individuals who reported regularly getting less than 5 hours of sleep per night were shown to have 3 times the odds of having an ischemic stroke, the most common type, which is caused by a blockage of blood flow to the brain. Think about that for a moment. Not a small 10 or 20% increase, but a 300% increase in odds. This finding validates the intuition many of us have had for years, that a chronic lack of sleep isn't just making us tired and grumpy. It's placing a significant, measurable strain on our most vital organ. When you don't get enough sleep, your body doesn't have the time to perform its essential overnight maintenance. Your blood pressure, which should naturally dip during sleep, can remain elevated. Your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, can stay in overdrive. Over time, this chronic state of high alert can damage blood vessels, promote inflammation, and create the very conditions that make a stroke more likely, especially in the vulnerable morning hours when our bodies are naturally undergoing a surge of stress hormones to wake us up. This leads many people, maybe even you, to a perfectly logical question. If too little sleep is bad, is sleeping too much also a problem? This is one of the most common points of confusion, and for good reason. If you look at many observational studies, you'll see what scientists call a U-shaped curve. On one side of the U, you have the short sleepers with their high risk. On the other side, you have long sleepers, those getting more than 9 hours a night, who also appear to have a higher risk of stroke. It's completely understandable to look at that and think, great, now I have to worry about sleeping too much too? I want to put your mind at ease on this, because the science has evolved, and it tells a more nuanced and, frankly, more reassuring story. It's true that for years, doctors saw this correlation and warned against long sleep. But the key word there is correlation. It means two things are happening at the same time, but it doesn't prove that one is causing the other. It's like noticing that ice cream sales and shark attacks both go up in the summer. One doesn't cause the other. A third factor, warm weather, is causing both. For a long time, researchers wondered if long sleep was the ice cream or the warm weather. This is where the detective work of modern science comes in, and it's truly fascinating. Scientists now use a powerful technique called Mendelian randomization. It's a complex name for a simple idea. They look at people's genes. Some people are genetically predisposed to be naturally long sleepers, just as some are predisposed to be short sleepers. It's written into their DNA. By studying these individuals, scientists can isolate the effect of sleep duration itself, separating it from lifestyle choices like diet or exercise. And what if these advanced genetic studies, like a major one published in the Journal of the American Heart Association, found? They have found no direct causal link between a genetic predisposition for long sleep and an increased risk of stroke. This is a game changer. It strongly suggests that sleeping more than 9 hours isn't the problem itself. Instead, excessive sleep is often a symptom, a piece of smoke that tells you there's a fire somewhere else. What could that fire be? It could be an underlying and undiagnosed illness, chronic inflammation, a very sedentary lifestyle, or often depression. The body is demanding more rest because it's fighting another battle. So if you find yourself sleeping much longer than usual, don't panic that the sleep itself is hurting you. Instead, see it as a valuable signal from your body, a cue to have a conversation with your doctor to find out what underlying issue might be causing that need for extra rest. It's a clue, not a conviction. This brings us to the most important shift in thinking in this entire conversation. If a specific duration of sleep, whether it's too short or too long, isn't the direct cause, but rather a powerful marker, what is it a marker for? What is the real danger that our sleep patterns are trying to warn us about? This is where we need to look past the numbers on the clock and focus on the quality of the sleep we're getting. A neurosurgeon, Dr. Adi Iyer, summed it up perfectly when he suggested that poor sleep is likely an epiphenomenon. That's a fancy word, but it just means it's a secondary symptom of the known classic stroke risk factors. Things like obesity, older age, alcohol use, and especially high blood pressure. Your sleep habits are a window into how well those other factors are being managed. Think of it like the check engine light in your car. The light itself isn't the problem. It's a signal that you need to look under the hood. A pattern of poor sleep is your body's check engine light. It's telling you that your blood pressure might be creeping up, or that your body is dealing with inflammation. This is actually empowering news. Why? Because you can't change your genetic predisposition for sleep, but you can take action on the things poor sleep is a sign of. It reframes the problem from an unsolvable mystery into a manageable project. You're no longer a victim of your sleep patterns. You're a detective using them as clues to protect your long-term health. The real question then becomes, what is the biggest and most common destroyer of sleep quality that directly cranks up stroke risk? And that brings us to the real villain of this story. The co-conspirator that the Interstroke study found was just as dangerous as sleeping less than 5 hours. The answer is sleep apnea. Remember I said that another group had a threefold increase in stroke risk? That group was people who had symptoms of sleep apnea, like loud snoring or snorting and gasping in their sleep. This condition is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's incredibly common, especially in older adults, and shockingly underdiagnosed. So what is it? A Mayo clinic explains it simply. Obstructive sleep apnea is a condition where your breathing repeatedly stops and starts during sleep. These pauses can last for 10 seconds or longer, and they can happen hundreds of times a night. Each time you stop breathing, your brain is starved of oxygen. It panics. It sends a surge of stress hormones, like adrenaline, through your body to jolt you awake just enough to take a breath. This cycle of oxygen deprivation and stress hormone surges is devastating to your cardiovascular system. It's like putting your body through a series of intense mini-traumas all night long. This process directly drives up blood pressure, often leading to hypertension that is very difficult to control, even with medication. It promotes inflammation in the arteries, making them stiffer and more prone to blockages. It can even lead to an irregular heartbeat known as atrial fibrillation, which is one of the leading causes of stroke. A person can be in bed for 8 solid hours, but if they have untreated sleep apnea, they are not getting restorative sleep. They are, in effect, fighting for their life all night long. They wake up exhausted, never knowing why. The tragic part is that many people, particularly men, dismiss their snoring as a simple annoyance, a joke even. But loud, persistent snoring, especially when paired with gasping sounds or daytime sleepiness, is not a joke. It's a major medical red flag. It's a direct plea for help from your body. Addressing sleep apnea is one of the single most impactful things a person can do to lower their morning stroke risk. All right, let's just take a quick pause here. We are more than halfway through, and we've covered some really critical and perhaps unsettling information. We've established that sleep duration is a powerful signal, not necessarily the root cause. We've learned that long sleep is likely a symptom of other issues, not a danger in itself. And we've unmasked the real villain for so many people: poor sleep quality, driven by conditions like sleep apnea, which starves the brain of oxygen and puts immense stress on the heart. I know this can be a lot to take in, but my goal is to replace your anxiety with actionable knowledge. If you're finding this deep dive helpful and are learning something valuable, I would be so grateful if you took just a single second to tap that like button below this video. It truly helps the video reach more people like you who are looking for clear, trustworthy health information. Thank you so much for that. Now, let's pivot from the risks to the solutions and sources of hope. One of the deepest fears that people like our friend Concerned Charles have is not just about having a stroke, but about what comes after. The fear of losing independence, of becoming a burden, is profound. And in the aftermath of a stroke, a new sleep-related worry can emerge. Stroke survivors often find themselves sleeping an incredible amount, far more than they ever did before. They may feel overwhelmingly drowsy and nap for hours during the day. For a family member and for the survivor themselves, this can be frightening. It can feel like a step backward, a sign of weakness, or that something is wrong. I am here to tell you with great emphasis that this is not only normal, but it is a crucial and positive sign of healing. Think of it this way: the brain has just suffered a major injury. Healing an injury of that magnitude requires a tremendous amount of energy. And sleep is the brain's primary workshop for repair. During deep sleep, the brain works to clear away cellular debris and toxins that have built up from the injury. It works to reroute neural pathways around the damaged area, a process called neuroplasticity. It consolidates learning and memory, which is essential for relearning skills in rehabilitation. Excessive sleepiness after a stroke is not a sign of giving up. It's a sign that the brain is working overtime on the most important construction project of its life, rebuilding itself. So if you or a loved one is experiencing this, try to reframe it. Don't fight it. See it as the body's wisdom at work. It's a necessary part of the recovery journey, a biological command to rest so that healing can happen. It is a sign of hope. Now, let's get to the most practical part of our discussion. What can you do starting tonight to improve your sleep and, by extension, protect your brain health? This isn't about chasing a perfect 8 hours, which can create its own anxiety. It's about creating the right conditions for your body to get the restorative rest it needs. This is often called sleep hygiene, and it's something you have complete control over. First, consistency is king. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine emphasizes the importance of going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day, even on weekends. This reinforces your body's natural sleep-wake cycle, or circadian rhythm. Think of it like setting a clock. When your body knows what to expect, it can more efficiently prepare for sleep and wakefulness. Second, create a sanctuary for sleep. Your bedroom should be for sleep and intimacy only, not for watching television, working, or scrolling on your phone. The environment should be cool, dark, and quiet. Even a small amount of light from a digital clock or a street lamp can disrupt the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals your body it's time to sleep. Consider blackout curtains or a simple eye mask. Third, be mindful of what you consume in the evening. Caffeine is a stimulant with a long half-life, meaning it can stay in your system for many hours. That afternoon cup of coffee could very well be the reason you're staring at the ceiling at midnight. And alcohol, while it might make you feel sleepy initially, severely disrupts the quality of your sleep later in the night, especially the crucial REM and deep sleep stages. Try to avoid both for at least 4 to 6 hours before bedtime. These aren't drastic, life-altering changes. They are small, consistent habits that over time can have a profound impact on your sleep quality and your overall health. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We've untangled the confusing science, we've identified the real dangers, and we've laid out a plan. Now, I want to bring it all together into one final, empowering idea. I want to leave you with a sense of genuine control over your health destiny. While you can't change your age or your genetics, the journey to lower your stroke risk isn't about factors outside of your control. It's about focusing on what you can change. Poor sleep, as we've established, is your body's check engine light. It's the ultimate signal that it's time to look under the hood at the big three modifiable risk factors. These are the things that poor sleep exacerbates and that directly lead to stroke. Number one is high blood pressure. Get your blood pressure checked regularly. Know your numbers and work with your doctor on a plan to manage it through diet, exercise, and, if needed, medication. Number two is chronic inflammation. This is often driven by diet. Focusing on a diet rich in anti-inflammatory foods like leafy greens, berries, nuts, and fatty fish can help cool the fires of inflammation in your arteries. And number three is blood sugar. Uncontrolled blood sugar and type 2 diabetes are major risk factors for stroke. Simple changes like reducing your intake of processed foods and sugary drinks can make a huge difference. Your sleep is a health metric, as important as your blood pressure or cholesterol. I urge you to talk to your doctor about it. Don't just say, "I'm not sleeping well." Be specific. Tell them, "My partner says I snore loudly and sometimes gasp for air." Tell them, "I consistently wake up exhausted even after 7 hours in bed." These are the clues that can lead to a diagnosis of a condition like sleep apnea, which is treatable. Taking control of these three areas is how you turn the tables on stroke risk. It's how you move from a place of fear to a place of power. You came here today perhaps feeling anxious, worried that a bad night's sleep was a ticking time bomb. I hope you leave here today with a new perspective. You've learned that the number of hours you sleep is less important than the quality of those hours. You've discovered that long sleep isn't the enemy, but a messenger. You've unmasked the silent danger of sleep apnea and know the red flags to look for. And most importantly, you have a clear three-part strategy, focusing on blood pressure, inflammation, and blood sugar. The very things that improving your sleep will help you manage. You have gained knowledge, and that knowledge is power. It is the power to have a more informed conversation with your doctor. It is the power to make small, sustainable changes in your daily life. It is the power to protect your health, preserve your independence, and live the long, vibrant life you deserve. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which piece of information in this discussion was the biggest aha moment for you? Was it the truth about long sleep, the role of sleep apnea, or the idea of sleep as a check engine light? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Your insights and experiences are so valuable to this community we're building together. And if you found this deep dive into brain health helpful and want more content just like it, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the little notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Be well, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next video.